Hey everyone, Hanz here. Hope all of you are doing well. Again, it's gonna be one where you won't be able to see me, but I think it's very fitting. It's very beautiful outside. Actually, it's nice and frosty, just the way I like it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the lunar and solar phase in man. That is capital M, so boys and girls all together. And you may find this interesting to listen to all the way to the end. So let's go. The lunar period, in brief, begins when you are an embryo in the womb. You are one with everything. Everything around you is also you, essentially. There is no differentiation or anything. And there are no boundaries, there are no rules. Everything is just one. There is a certain bliss and harmony in it. That is to say, even though it can be a dangerous and threatening world. But in the first few years of your life, hopefully that is not so much of a concern that you need to think about, because you have parental figures, hopefully, again, that are looking out for you, that are keeping you safe, raising you well, and doing right by you. Then you have the solar period, in which you go by the time you're about 7, more or less. It's not exact. Oh yeah, maybe throwing it in there real quick. I'm not a professional of this or that kind. You do with this information as you see fit. What is the solar period? It's the period where you become independent, where masculinization kicks in. The lunar period is very much feminine. It's very touchy-feely, very cuddly. And the solar period is where you start facing the world and you start to understand that you are your own entity and that everything around you is its own entity. However, the solar period, the solar phase of your youth can be halted if you happen to be in the hands of deranged individuals who want to clamp that down and want to keep you trapped in the lunar period where everything is acceptable and there are no rules, thus keeping you very, very vulnerable. Now, I would argue there is always the choice that you can make for yourself to enter the solar. But being in a lunar, being trapped in there, makes it very difficult. And it is what it is, whether people like to hear that or not. Throwing in there then that the solar being the masculine, being independent, self-reliant, facing the world, and actually also that is the phase where you have the capacity for empathy that you do not necessarily have in the lunar, because all is just one. You quickly start to understand that if someone is being held in the hands by deranged individuals who want power, who get little kicks out of controlling others, that they will not let a child get into the solar period. Thus, masculinization takes no place, or very limited, very minimal. Empathy vanishes, is just not present, maybe I should say. Doesn't even have a chance to arise. And well, the quality of everything, borders, morals, all of that, it just completely falls by the wayside, doesn't it? And then I invite you to look at the streets and tell me I'm wrong. But there is something to be said also, that physically maturing does not help you get into the solar necessarily, not in and of itself. So imagine someone who thinks that everything is, that person itself. There is no differentiation, or very limited. At some point you have to get a little bit of solar, I guess, to comprehend that which is the very basic things, like that your food is not necessarily you or whatever. I'm just saying something. Other than, again, you have certain mental illnesses where people come absolutely dysfunctional in their dealings with the world, and I wonder if this has something to do with it as well. But again, I'm not I'm not a professional. I do not know. I'm just sharing my thoughts, and again, as usually, take what you think is worthwhile and leave the rest, and leave it for others. Yeah, so where do you typically see this arise? With authoritarians. They love this. I mean, you can see why, right? Authoritarians would love this, or do love this. And they will, of course, do everything in the power they crave to do what to children? Keep them out of the solar, keep them trapped in the lunar, where they are most vulnerable, where they have the least understanding of the world, and where they will be led by the nose by about anything. This, of course, comes with a lot of psychological and emotional, physical abuse, sometimes material abuse, so that would cover all four of them that I can think of. Suppose, yeah, spiritual abuse in a sense, because your very soul is not even necessarily allowed to develop in full. And yeah, then very quickly thereafter you will have systems that rise up, organizations of all kinds, religious and political, some even having crescents in their symbolism, some solar, but that's more like a cover, I would say, who yeah, who will lead millions upon millions by the nose, and acting as surrogate parents, because it is also part of it. A child that is abused by, it should be parents, is all, unless they overcome that trauma, they're always going to keep looking for that mother and father they never had. And that's also why very often you see situations of a lot of these foolish young females who go with men that are like 3 times their age or whatever, who are tall, and they need to be wealthy, etc., etc. It all comes back to wanting dads to take care of them. And with males, it's can get pretty grim as well. We have like these burned out females who are like in their 30s who hang around with these, who have a so-called relationship with a 20-year-old boy and all of that. Well, 20-year-old man, I guess. They are of that age, mature age, legally. But it still remains kind of weird, and I think this has a lot to do with it. And yeah, anything else is just looking at the degrees. Most will be trapped in the lunar with a bit of solar, just enough solar to be what would you call that? Just enough solar, I guess, to be the henchmen, I suppose, the corrupt agents of the authoritarians. Doesn't matter if it's about religion or politics or anything else. The types who seek approval from everyone, who just want to be accepted and will repeat whatever the crowd says, because if all is one, then if something does not go along with that which is considered as all, well, that is of course something that needs to be gotten rid of. And you quickly can see that they would not necessarily be afraid of taking a life, because they have never really garnered any empathy for others. What does that leave you with then? Indifference, apathy at minimum, and antipathy if not that, right? And again, just look into the streets in the 21st century cities, etc. Oh man, there's so much noise outside. I hope it's not too disturbing for you guys. But yeah, I think in brief, that is where the mindset of a lot of anti-whites are born. They are told, basically, that white people are not part of the one and therefore must be gotten rid of, lacking any empathy, they'll stop at nothing in any way to do just that. And nature is also not part of it, although there is the stories, right? That's also perhaps worth mentioning. The lack of boundaries and all of that. Yeah, that includes a lot of crimes in general, an invasion of privacy. Notice how authoritarians always need to be up in your house as deep, as many cameras on you, etc., as possible, right? Because everything is one. So therefore, everything around themselves are just part of them. They have no recognition of the entity that you separately are from them. So why would it matter? What are all these pesky laws and what have you that allow people to have stuff of their own? No, all is one, so all should be in accord with one. And if that is not within an accord with one, e pluribus unum, well, then it needs to be gotten rid of in the deranged mindset that is trapped in the lunar. And again, to make it clear, the lunar is not, well, the lunar is a good thing, but it should be balanced with the solar. There is that which is solar only, I think, whereby the solar really dominates, and that can also be too much, because that leaves people with a lot of burnout, etc., I guess. And again, to make it clear, this goes as much for girls as for boys. Girls are also supposed to go into a masculinization process. That does not mean physically getting buff and what have you. Oh yeah, and that's also another thing with the boundaries, etc., right? There are no genders. Everything is just one. So boys may as well try to become girls, and girls may as well try to become boys, etc., because all is just one big blob, right? That pesky nature and all its natural laws, get rid of it, I would say, right? And I hope that tells you a lot about the anti-whites that might be useful for you to know. Can people be at a certain period in time? You may be trapped in the lunar forever, and what do you do with that when such people come for you? What can one do against such reckless hive mind, such hateful hive mind? Tja, what can one say? Machine is about to give out, so I'm kind of forced to leave it here already. But I think it's a good start to get into it. I might refine my thoughts a little more, and I hope that this is one of the topics we're going to talk a bit more about in our community, in the white positive sphere in general, because it helps you understand the mindset of the people who are coming after you and your children. Brainwashing children, abusing them into turning into gender dysphorics, and all of that. On purpose. There are people who are born with all manner of flaws in that field, I guess, but that's separate. That's nobody's fault. And these people, by the way, like I mentioned, they follow ideologies by the droves. They are very feelings based because all must appeal to their feelings. It has nothing to do with justice. And keep an eye on that as well. What do you see more of? Like, what is the complaint in general? Lacking masculinity, lacking independence, rising authoritarianism, crescents, flags with crescents on them. Look around yourself if you don't believe me. Making a massive rise all over the place. And just everywhere you go, ideologies are being spread that are all about being one with this, being one with that, and so forth and so on. there is a healthy balance between working in a group and still being your own self. That is having balance with the lunar and the solar. That is healthy, that is functional, that allows you to interact with nature and with the people around you. Provided you still need to have your morals in check, etc. Things you can agree upon with the people around you. But that is, that is among those who have mastered the lunar and solar, have balanced it out, and then need to find a accord with one another. That's a bit of a separate conversation at the end of the day. I guess on top of that you can throw in that there are many who are depressive, sensationalists, etc., etc., etc. But again, that's going to give the flair, like the type of lunar mind, lunar entrapment that you're going to see. Not all those who are lunar and trapped get along with each other, far from it. Because all is one, and all must agree with one, which is they themselves, right? But among themselves, among each other, if you have a room full of people like that, they all think that everything is one. And they will all, gibber the same things, they will try to look the same, etc., 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 as much as possible. They will talk the same, have the same gestures, speak with the same annoying accents that is loose from culture. If you have the eyes for it, I think most people can at least detect a few things. Why not throw it in the comment section if you want to? And I'm also going to make mention of Michael Tsarion, who definitely deserves some credit there, and deserves some credit in bringing more information about this out there. I'm having my what do you call that? It's definitely an inspiration, and he definitely helped me see a bit clearer in that field, so that's much appreciated. And yet to all the philosophers who came before, who work up towards us having this understanding about ourselves, I hope their names, will emerge again from the mists of history. We might have a glance, and well, there's a lot to learn there, guys. Can't be understated. With that said, I'm gonna leave you all to whatever you're doing, enjoying your Yule, I may hope. I'm going to go on my moonlit walk. You all have a good one. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.